Chapter 13 is good if you're behind on like a house or a car and you want to try to bring those current through the plan and pay off some of your unsecured debt as well. And at the end of the payment plan, if you still have unsecured debt out there, credit cards, medical bills, those sorts of things, then those debts are discharged and you no longer owe those. So in the ideal world, you would bring your house current in a Chapter 13 plan, pay off maybe a little bit of your unsecured debt, and then get rid of all that unsecured debt at the end of your 5-year repayment plan.
More people walking away from houses than ever before. More short sales. A friend of mine in the real estate business says right now we're probably at maybe just past the halfway mark, pushing 55, 60% maybe, in terms of the number of houses that are going to be foreclosed on, that there are others out there that just are empty and the banks have been too busy to get to them. I've got to think, again, that's one of those things that is putting people into the front door of your office on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, I tell people just to wait for the foreclosure to go through, because it could be, sometimes years. I've had people that have been in their house for 2 years waiting for the foreclosure just to be filed with the court. They hadn't even filed it.
And do they pay their house note at that time, or what do they do?
Typically, they're not. I mean, that's, they haven't paid it, and, I tell them to save that money up for wherever they're going to move, for the deposits and that kind of stuff. And, in the meantime, they can...
that really is a matter of saving up or a matter of paying other bills other than the...
Right, they can pay their credit cards down, pay their car payments down, whatever.
Okay.
And, it could be a while. A lot of times the banks are making deals with people, just, we'll get to you, stay in your house. That way we don't have to mow the grass and take care of it and everything, because code enforcement's getting kind of strict on those to make sure they don't have overgrown lawns and peeling paint or whatever.
And rats running in and out of the back window that was kicked out. Right. Attorney Eric Niederliner joining us. He's a bankruptcy attorney here in Pensacola. His website, shouldifileforbankruptcy.com. You're on the Pensacola expert panel at News Radio 1620. If you have a question for Eric, don't hesitate to give us a call, 437-1620, 437-1620. You can make up a name. You don't have to use your real name. How about that? That's pretty good, right?
Right.
People, that's got to be, is that one of the things, the stigma is the embarrassment, the humiliation? It's like I busted my butt as best I could to do all this, and there's just, I got more month than I got money. I got checks in my checkbook, but no money in the bank, things like that.
Right, yeah, I think that's why people put it off as long as they do. The average filer, once they've reached my office, they probably should have been there 2 years ahead of time.
Oh, my gosh.
Because they've put it off. They think things are going to turn around, and, they're hoping for the best, and, they truly do want to pay their bills back, but for whatever reason, they just have gotten in over their head, and they can't. And, most of the time, by the time they get around to filing bankruptcy, they've paid off what they borrowed. They've probably even paid interest and double what they borrowed back, and it's just interest and late fees, and because we feel like it fees and whatever else the banks charge. And they force a lot of people into bankruptcy because somebody knows they're losing their job. They call up the credit card company and say, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to make this next payment. I'm out of work. Got to put food on the table. And instead of trying to work out a deal, lower the interest rate, make a minimum payment, give them a deferment for a month or something, they're like, well, we can't even talk to you until you're 90 days behind. It doesn't make sense all the time. And then when they are behind and they try to work out some type of repayment plan, a lot of times with the credit card companies, the repayment plan is, okay, we'll take half now and the other half next month. And the people are like, well, if I could do that, we wouldn't be having a conversation right now.
Why do you think their brains are so calcified like that?
I've given up on trying to get into the brains of the credit card companies. You would think something would be better than nothing, because the person's next step is a Chapter 7 in most cases, and the credit card companies are out of luck. They're going
to be stuck.
Yeah, they're going to
holding a bag full of nothing. Go ahead, you can take a sip of coffee. Eric Niederliner did manage to spend some time on two beaches, both Pensacola on Saturday for the air show, and then yesterday in Gulf Shores for the Jimmy Buffett. I didn't see it either one of those, but I mean, there were however many, there were 40,000 people at the concert last night in Gulf Shores. That was not you in the grass skirt with the shark fin on your head, right?
No, that was not me.
Okay, just checking.
I had the Florida State hat on.
Oh, well, that cut it down to about 3,000 people.
Right. It was easier to pick me out of the Auburn and Alabama fans.
Ooh, yeah, that's probably so. Probably. I was amazed when you start noticing Seminoles in just the most subtle places.
Right.
They really do. The website for Eric, by the way, is shouldIfileforbankruptcy.com. We've talked about Chapter 7 liquidation. You have to sell your stuff. You have to sell your furniture. You have to sell – what do you have to sell? Everything?
Well, when you
what are you allowed to keep? Let's put it another way.
Okay. When you file bankruptcy, a trustee is appointed to the case, and typically if you're over on your exemptions, you get certain exemptions, certain properties exempt.
Okay.
In the state of Florida, if you've resided in the house for over 2 years, you have 100% equity in your house, if you're lucky to have any equity these days in your house. And you get a $1,000 exemption in personal property. So it's really a retail value. So thrift stores are really the only place that sells used furniture, and so you go through your home, list all your furniture, electronics, jewelry, clothing, tools, whatever it is that you owe. If it's a joint filing, husband and wife, it's $1,000 each, so $2,000 total. If it's a single filing, it's $1,000. If you don't take a homestead exemption, then it's $5,000 each in personal property, or $10,000 if it's a joint filing. And then you get a $1,000 exemption in equity in one motor vehicle. But what happens is most of the filers owe on the vehicles. There's no equity in the vehicles, or very little.
Mm-hmm.
But say someone files, they have a vehicle worth $3,000, and they get a $1,000 exemption in equity in that vehicle, and they're $2,000 over. So typically they buy the overage back from the trustee, and normally it's over a year period. So whatever your overage is,
they keep making payments. Yeah, the
right.
money they don't have, they've got to send it somewhere else. And now in the corporate world, aren't there some other chapters we always hear about?
Chapter 11, it's basically sort of like Chapter 13, and that it's a restructuring. It's a good way for businesses to get out of, maybe it's a chain or something like that, and they have some poor performing stores. It's a good way for them to get out of those leases and restructure and get out of some other bad contracts and just redo their debt, and hopefully they emerge from the Chapter 11 and
leaner and meaner,
right.
Because they all manage a lot of even union deals are null and void at that point. They can kick the union to the curb, and all those poor union people who said, well, I thought we had a pension guaranteed by the company. Ha ha. Yeah, you're out of luck.
Right.
Yeah. Man, it's just got to be brutal right now. I mean, there's I walk into your office this week and file. How long before things will actually happen? How many, were you talking months, years?
Well, for a Chapter 7, once you've got to do credit counseling prior to filing a bankruptcy, and then there's a second credit counseling class that you have to take after the bankruptcy has been filed but before it's over with. Once you've taken that class and got all the paperwork back to us that we need to actually draft the bankruptcy, it'll take us normally about a week to get it drafted and get you back in to sign the bankruptcy. And then once it's filed with the court, it takes about 4.5 months from the date of filing until the discharge. Approximately to a month and a half after the filing of the bankruptcy, there'll be a creditors meeting, and that meeting's basically it's a meeting for you to be placed under oath and sworn in and asked questions about the paperwork. Did you list all your property, creditors, other financial information? Do you need to make any changes? And then if a creditor wants to come to the meeting and ask questions of you under oath, they can. Typically they don't. But then after that hearing, and normally it's just a couple of minute hearing, it's just waiting. There's deadlines for the creditors to object to your exemptions and the discharge of particular debts, normally due to some type of fraud or something of that nature. And you do have a second personal finance money management class that you have to take after